Hi everyone, and welcome to another Southborough Connects. My name is Doug Peck. I'm currently the chairperson of the Southborough Council on Aging, and I've been working in sort of the senior care aging space now for the last 15 years. And in my travels, I travel from Middlesex, Metro West and into Boston. I meet a lot of nice people. This is a great industry to work in. And I want to bring them to you because one of the things I know is that aging, particularly aging in place, but aging in general, has gotten more complicated, certainly since I've started. You know, there's been, for me, two new almost professions. One is elder law attorneys. I mean, I knew one or two maybe 15 years ago. Now I know, I can't tell you how many there are. And I've also known what was called geriatric care managers, and now they're called aging life care specialists. And they've become more and more important. And I'm going to introduce you today to Sarah Bourque, who is a neighbor in Ashland and has a company called the Aging Space. And we're going to talk not just about that company, but about her background, what to look for in aging life care specialist, and just exactly what type of things do they do and what makes them so necessary, what value they bring. So Sarah, welcome to Southborough Connects.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, happy to be able to talk about aging life care management, because I think it's a well-hidden secret.
Okay, good. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know I've known you now for, I bet you it's 8 or 10 years.
8 or 10 years,
a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I'll let you do it so I don't mess it up.
Okay. So I think of my background as my sort of long road home, home being aging life care management.
Yeah.
Started as a mental health worker, became a nurse in psychiatry, worked in skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes, adult day health programs, assisted living. And it was when I was at an assisted living that I learned about aging life care management. That was about 8 years ago. And until then, I had really never come across it. When I left there, I connected with aging life care manager who shared a client or a resident with me. And I started working with her, Rebecca Wesley, who's the founder of the Aging Space. And I've been there ever since. In 2023, Rebecca retired and I purchased the company. So now I have this business ownership thing too, which is very foreign to me. Yeah. But the aging life care management, the care management is really the core of what I love and I do.
Okay, good. I mean, I know Rebecca. She was so helpful to me when I first started. She would actually she came to my office and gave a couple of, sort of sessions on behavior, particularly people living with dementia. And, it was really nice. It's one of the nice things I like in general about this business. It's very collegial. You share a lot of information. It's not a super competitive type of business.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me about what you've been doing. Two things before we get to there. Tell me about your experiences at the Aging Life Care Association, the New England chapter, because it is a national organization.
Yes, it is. And I currently am president of the New England chapter. The Aging Life Care Association is an association of care managers across the nation, all of whom, in order to join the association, are vetted by education, experience. You have to get a letter of reference to be accepted into it. And then what they do is there are educational experiences available, national conferences, regional conferences. We have a listserv, which is both national and local, that allows us to tap into the skill sets of other or experiences of other care managers who are either local to us or just in general. So we have a wide base for information, new ideas, creative thinking. It also provides us with standards and ethics that we have to abide by. Care management is not a is not a license. There's no
Okay.
licensing that you have to go through. So what this does is it will give consumers, the elders or their children, a sense of security about the background of people, rather than picking someone out of the phone book who maybe took care of their father but don't have the same kind of
Right.
experience and
Right.
background working within the healthcare and medical community.
And that's really important today. And I've met a lot of people in the New England chapter, and they've been, just terrific folks. A lot of them are licensed social workers, right?
Yep.
Some like yourself are RNs, but you have a master's in gerontology.
Yes.
But that's the focus. Everybody
Yes.
that comes in, it's a very, I don't want to say narrow focus, but specific in that it is on aging.
Right. And we are expanding a little bit in that a lot of our professionals now are also OTs or PTs,
Oh, yeah.
speech and language pathologists, so people who maybe have worked in home health care and been in the homes with people who are aging or living with life-limiting chronic illness or other kinds of disabilities. Some of the care managers now will work with people who are younger but have disabilities, Down syndrome, life-limiting like ALS or multiple sclerosis. And we also sometimes will work with people who are younger because their parents are beginning to age and
Yeah.
they're looking for people who can help guide them and make sure that there's a safe plan for their child or loved one who may or may not be able to manage independently.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's really important to know, because you need to make sure that the person has the knowledge and the skill, because you get into very personal things with the families that you deal with. Tell me a little bit about the type of things that when you go to see a client you're talking about, or why do clients call you?
Right. So it varies from client to client. Often we're called in either when there's a new diagnosis, for example, like a dementia or maybe something like ALS or Parkinson's, where people understand that there are going to be changes over time where needs are increasing. And we'll get called in to help them plan for that, to think about how do they set themselves up to either age in place, or are they going to need to go someplace like an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility at some point, and how do you choose the right place? How can you maximize independence while maintaining safety for people? So we'll get called in for those kinds of things. Sometimes an adult child who might live across the country might come in, might call us after having a visit with mom and dad and finding that although mom and dad have been saying everything's fine, it's perfect,
Yeah.
that the house is a mess, they look like they haven't showered, they've lost 20 pounds, there are pills all over the place, so that the children can tell that the adults, their parents, need a little extra support. And we're able to go in, assess what their needs are, and help put in place things according to what their goal is. So it might be, they're forgetting their meds, or they don't know how to fill them, or they're having trouble opening the pill boxes. So we might bring in a medication machine or some other system, or just set them up with a system with a pill box instead of opening pill bottles to take their meds. It might be bringing in other resources to come in a couple times a week, maybe to help them shower because they're afraid of slipping in the shower, so they're not doing it. We might bring in someone to help cook meals for them, or take them shopping and set them up with easy to make food. It really depends on the needs as we assess them for each individual.
So in a way, you sound like a general contractor, and that you're bringing other people in that you've worked with to help them very specifically reach whatever goals or objectives that you've helped them set.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a lot of what we do.
Okay.
We certainly do that piece. I had a prospect call recently, and she said to me, I need a co-pilot. And I loved that analogy
Yeah.
because that's exactly what we're doing. We're not going to come in and tell people what to do or
Okay.
what they have to do, but we're going to introduce ideas. We also can get really in there with people. So, for example, we can go to medical appointments and help translate the medical-ese or make sure that the doctor stays long enough for them to ask all their questions.
Yeah.
Or we make sure, having the medical background, we understand both the client and what their home environment looks like, as well as what a surgery, for example, might look like and what recovery, and how can we make sure that it will be a smooth recovery and they'll have the support that they need for that. Emergency rooms, if someone doesn't have family nearby, and they end up in the emergency room, we can be there with them as a support, as an advocate, and also to carry all of the medical information and the history, including baseline. You know, sometimes an elder will end up with a urinary tract infection, which will change their mental status significantly.
Yeah.
And they go into the ER, but if the ER doesn't know what their baseline is, they don't know really how to explore things and what's needed. So we can help with that. Or, you know, with my own parents, they go to the doctor and I say, how'd the doctor's visit go?
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have to do anything? No, they didn't tell me anything new. And then I'll look in their portal and find they were supposed to change 3 meds and
Yeah.
call the PT or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So we really are able to make sure all of those things happen as well.
Yeah. I like the word you use, advocate, because I think that a lot of people are, I don't want to say afraid going to the doctor, but they're a little more timid going to the doctor. They don't want to ask too many questions or press them, well, is there an alternative to this or something? So that's really important, though, that make sure they have that kind of agency to get to what they want to do.
Right.
And let the doctor know, too, what their wishes are.
Absolutely. And particularly as people get older and they may not want a lot of intervention. They
Right.
may not, you know, a diagnosis, maybe with a cancer diagnosis, they may not really want to go through chemotherapy. Doctors just assume and they just tell people what they're going to do. I worked with a client who had a significant issue with her head tilting forward, which was bothering her. And the doctor said, okay, we'll get an MRI and then we'll see what to do next. And she was fairly bold and said, well, what is the MRI going to tell us?
Right.
And he said, well, you know, this could be fixed surgically. And she said, well, no, I don't want surgery.
Yeah.
So then there was no point in having the MRI.
Right.
So helping people understand that they have choices, that they don't have to do what the doctor says, if it's not comfortable, if it doesn't meet their goals of care. And that's another piece that we often talk to people about is quality of life. What do they consider quality of life? And how can we preserve that while, as I said earlier, maintaining safety and independence and dignity and all of those things.
Yeah. I think that's really important, quality of life. I think that's what everybody is looking for, not necessarily living to be 100, but during what time they have is to have a high quality life during that time.
Yep.
And I've seen it as well where you're an objective sort of third party interpreting what they want, and the doctor's saying one thing, but you're there to make sure that their voice gets heard. And it often can get lost because it's a crisis often, right?
Yes.
And people are upset and they don't necessarily express themselves well. They're not feeling good, so they're not thinking necessarily. And you're kind of there as a person who knows. But you also know what some of the alternatives are that they would never know.
Right.
That you can do this, you know, that's an alternative. It's up to you, and you can talk about it with the doctor, but still, you need to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we also often start with is asking what quality of life is. A lot of people don't spend a lot of time defining that for themselves.
Right.
So having people talk about that and talking to people about that, it gives you this anchor at any decision point that, for example, being able to verbally communicate, that's your quality of life. Without that, it's not quality of life. So anything that might take away your ability to verbally communicate probably isn't something that you want to do. Or I had a client years ago, drinking plain water was her pleasure. She always had a water
Really?
bottle.
Yeah.
She drank a ton.
Yeah.
And they wanted to give her thickened water, which she hated. And she said to me, it's just not quality life if I have to drink this stuff.
Why would they do that? What's the thickened water?
That if there are swallowing difficulties, it
okay.
makes it's protective of swallowing and aspirating and getting pneumonia.
Okay.
So that's one of the tools that the doctor speech therapist might work with to minimize risk.
Okay.
But for her, it was more important to be able to drink this thin water than to minimize the risk of getting aspiration pneumonia, because she was willing to take the chance. She was ready to have fewer days, but have better days. And
that's important.
right,
It is.
yeah. So being able to help people express that is really important.
So that's even a little bit before, but you also can help people think about sort of advanced directives as well. Because that's a hard discussion to have even with a doctor. Because you don't have all that much time necessarily with your PCP. You need to think about that, and you can help people think about what that means, what being on an aspirator means.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Absolutely. And that all, again, goes back to that, what do you consider quality of life? And then you can talk through all of the aspects of advanced directives. So in Massachusetts, we have the MOLST, which are Massachusetts Order of Life-Sustaining Treatment. And that's really do you want CPR? Do you want to be intubated on a machine to breathe for you? Do you want a feeding tube? Do you want to go on dialysis? So often, as part of our discussions over time, I mean, it's not like I go in there and plop the MOLST in front of them and ask them to make these decisions, but it's an overtime conversation often, but a really important one, and one that's important to do early and for everybody. Some doctors will say, oh, you don't need to think about it until you're at the end of life.
Right.
But really it's important for everybody to do that, because any of us could get some bad pneumonia, get COVID, something like that, that these things will come into play. So we'll talk about what each of these things mean and the risks and the benefits. So for example, for CPR, it's really designed for a young, middle-aged person who has a sudden cardiac event to get their heart started. For a frail elder, if you do that, you're going to break their ribs, and you're probably going to puncture their lung. And so is that something for the outcome, which for those people is not great, for the long-term outcome, is that something they want to take the risk of? There are absolutely some people who want to live every possible day.
Right.
And there are some people who say, I only want to live my days if X, Y, Z. Talking about dialysis, what does that look like? 3 to 4 days a week for several hours, dialysis center tired, feeding tube, you can't eat anything by mouth, and you have to put, so all of those processes we talk about.
Yeah, that's good. Give me an idea. So if somebody calls you up and says, hi, Sarah, what are sort of the steps? Can you give an initial, what do you talk about initially? Is it like, can they call you up and say, hey, do you have 10 or 15 minutes so I can just talk to you about my situation, and then let them make a decision whether they want to go further? Is that something that you sort of do as a free consultation?
Absolutely. We have, anybody can call us for an initial inquiry, free consultation call, and we will talk to you. We'll listen a little bit to what you're looking for, and then talk to you about how we think we can support you. And if we feel like we're not the right people to support you, we will absolutely get you to the people who are the right people. But talk about how we can support you, talk about the process. One of the things in our practice is we have a multidisciplinary team. We have 3 care managers. I'm a nurse, as you said. We have a social worker and an occupational therapist.
Oh, so.
And we meet at least once a month, often more often, about every client that we have. So we all know about all our clients and we can cover for one another, but we also help each other understand aspects of the care or what the client is struggling with from different perspectives. So they really get 3 heads for the price of one. So we talk about that. We are a private pay company, so, and in general, aging life care management is a private pay service. So we talk about how we do our billing, what's billable time. Then we will offer people that will send them their the service agreement so that they can review that. If they want to sign on, then we will go through that process.
Right. But they could stop at any time as well. It's not you're not signing any kind of contract or
Absolutely. We start everybody as if they're going to do ongoing care management.
Right.
But if someone from the initial consultation, they meet with a care manager that's a lead care manager, they get the information they need, they want to try it on their own, there is absolutely no problem with stopping at that point. We're hopefully not going anywhere.
Right.
We're not planning to go anywhere. So if things change, you want to come back and do another piece of work, you can do that. We've had that happen frequently with people where things change, things get manageable. They say, okay, we're all set now. And then things get worse. There's a fall or another new diagnosis. We're called back in, we do another piece of work, and then we'll go.
Yeah. What you reminded me of when you say how the different specialties that you have, that's the confusing thing. I mean, how many doctors do people go to? They go to their PCP. They go to maybe a cardiologist or a cancer person. So just being able to have an overview of what's going on has got to be very helpful for a lot of people, particularly for the caregiver.
Yeah.
Because that's also because you're really you're working with the family, not just the person who needs the help. You have to understand what the caregiver is going through. And that's another big benefit, I think, for the family, is that for the caregiver to know, somebody's got their back. They don't have to know everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we do that. And just as a thought, as you're talking about that, is we work with family, but we also will work with people who don't have family, who maybe didn't marry or there's no family at all that's involved. We can help with those too. But as you were saying, we do communicate with the families depending on what the family wants.
Right. Yeah.
We usually will send a visit update after any visit, whether it's just visiting at home or going to the doctor or visiting, bringing them to some event that they wanted to go to. We'll send a detailed explanation to the family. And I think that's particularly helpful for families who either can't be involved because they're too busy or are at a distance. I have a client in California. The daughter's in California. Client's here. We've been working with her for about 5 years. From the point of her moving into an assisted living, into memory care. She's now on hospice. We've been very involved. And whenever we visit, any of us visit, we send a long, detailed description so that it has come to the point where this daughter, who was very nervous about doing the right thing, now often, if she's very busy, will say, I trust you to make the right decision. And just allow us to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of long distance clients as well, and it's a tricky situation. But there are also a lot of just solo agers nowadays. That's what they're called when it's just you. If they didn't have children, maybe a spouse passed away, and now they're by themselves. And they have issues both with grief, maybe recovering, which is another way to you can suggest some help, which if they don't have that kind of support, not many people are going to suggest that unless they go to a priest or a minister that they know. But even then, they don't understand necessarily what's available for that.
Right.
What's available for palliative care? What does hospice really do? You know, things like that that are just, again, part of the complexity of aging in today's society.
Right, right. I mean, hospice is a great example of ways that we're able to educate and support people. One is, I think it's an amazing service. It's a Medicare covered service that just allows people a better quality of life. But they don't do what I think many people think of. They don't move into the house.
Right.
They're there for periodic visits. So often people think, oh, I'll go on hospice, they'll take care of everything.
Right.
So we have to help support them to understand what hospice can and can't do, put in services if they need it. And it's also, hospice people always think is being right at end of life. But often people can go in earlier, and the support that they get from that can shore them up in such a way that they can graduate for hospice. I have a client now who's graduated 3 times, and I think about to graduate her 4th time from hospice. Just because the extra support makes that much of an impact each time there's a decline.
Again, it's about quality of life, and you start that early. Just because someone's going, you know, in that area doesn't mean that you don't want that to be a really quality piece as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you very much. This has gone very quickly, but I hope people out there, you know, are interested in this, and you've learned something from it, because it is a really great service. It really can help you and the family in some really very difficult times. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time at Southborough Connect.